starting with one Post Malone new album out called Austin. Is that his name? Is that a real name? I don't remember. I think it is. I don't remember the last time he dropped an album, but I would say he's been pretty consistent about every 2 to 3 years. He's put out a new project, a new collection of songs that he's been working on and put together. So it sounds about right that he's dropping again. It wasn't like a huge surprise. He's always been pretty consistent as an artist and as a musician, and he always seems to be working and touring. So it was kind of expected for him to drop sometime soon. But it is cool that he's at that point where he doesn't really need to advertise or promote his stuff that much. He can just kind of just drop and people just automatically kind of gravitate towards it and vibe with it. So I'm really interested to kind of see what direction he heads in with this one. Over the past few albums, he's certainly moved further and further away from kind of like that alternative rap and hip hop that he started on that kind of really blew him up in the first place. We haven't had a White Iverson type song in quite a long time. He's certainly gone more towards that guitar based alternative sound that I think he initially tried before he couldn't really got on. And quite honestly, it's not that surprising. It's a direction that I assumed that he would eventually start to head back in at one point or another. And yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see. I wouldn't be surprised if he continues that shift in direction and like fully just becomes an alternative rock act with little hints and elements of rap and hip hop. But I haven't heard much from the album, just a couple singles here and there, so I don't really have huge expectations. But I do think he is a dope artist, no matter like how you kind of feel about his, place in the culture. But yeah, he just puts out good music, so that's kind of what I'm expecting. But let's get right into it. Post Malone, Austin, track number 1. Don't understand. Let's go. I think that answered my question. Like I said, I wasn't really sure if he's going to continue down the road, and right off the back, he fully went kind of alternative rock, folky ballad, and no like hip hop drums or rapping or any semblance of that culture in it. And seems to be like he's kind of fully left that part of his career and style behind. And overall, it's a cool song, like cool little ballad. I think his vocals are surprisingly good. I think they're like unique and different than what would be considered like a traditionally great vocalist, but he uses kind of his sound and his voice to great effect on all of his songs. It's very kind of sad and emo-esque. And yeah, it was cool. Nothing crazy. Kind of a slow, soft intro to an album, but it was solid. Good track number 2, Something Real. Okay, that was fire. Certainly picked up the pace from the intro, and I love kind of like that gospel-y, big, loud kind of backing vocals. Very much a staple of like Baptist church and gospels and gospel choirs. I think it added a lot here. The guitar was solid here. Vocals are strong. Like overall, just a dope song. Like I really think that this would have been even a better choice to kind of intro the album than what we got. But this was fire. I fuck with this one. Let's go to Chemical. All right, that's cool. Obviously catchy. Obviously has like that single pop sensibility that you can see playing on top 40s, and it does play on top 40s for obvious reasons. I think it checks all the right boxes in terms of like a radio friendly single that like the mainstream can kind of like latch onto. But as catchy as it was, as like sing along as much sing along quality like the chorus has. It just feels generic. It feels super generic. It feels like a generic pop rock song that any kind of like moderately skilled pop rock band would be able to produce. And just because it's Post Malone, I think it's a little bigger than it should be, but that's just my feeling. It feels pretty generic, and it feels like it could have came from almost anybody on the top 40 charts. But let's go to the next track, Nova Candy. All right, I've heard enough. I'm definitely going to have to say this one was kind of, again, very generic sounding, kind of that synth pop that you could hear from pretty much anybody else out there. It's certainly a different direction for Post Malone and what we've heard from him in his career to this point. But if you're just going to get kind of generic sounds and generic songs, I would like to see him kind of go back in the direction that it came from. That was super generic and very forgettable overall. Like, wasn't really vibing with that one. But let's check the next one. Let's go to Morning, which we actually did react to the video already. But here we go. Okay, that's more of the Posty that I've come to know and love and expect. Like I said, he kind of dips back into like his little older trap pop kind of style. He certainly gives you a little bit more hardness to it with kind of the trap drums and trap beats, and a little bit more knocking than we've gotten so far. And I'm vibing with it so far. That's one of my favorite songs that I've heard from this project. Obviously, we heard the video like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever, and it stood out to me then, and it stands out to me now. This is just a dope song. And it's a song about, you know, him struggling with his addictions and partying too much, and, you know, just being around the wrong crowds. And it just seems to be like a common theme with all his music and something that he's been talking about for a while now, and it continues to be, you know, a subject of his. But overall, dope song, vibing with that one. Let's keep that going. Let's go to Too Cool to Die. That was cool. Cool little track. Another very synth pop heavy song. Definitely with elements of like 80s electro pop and certain kind of like synthy elements from that time period. It's not like a new aesthetic. A lot of artists have been doing that, a la Dua Lipa, The Weeknd, and more. That sound is certainly kind of, it's been here for a while now. A lot of people have done it, so it doesn't feel as novel as it might have been if you had did this some years ago. But overall, it was a solid track, and it's something that I could definitely hear on like one of those like 80s movies. But overall, nothing crazy, but solid. Let's go to the next track. Sign Me Up. Cool. Again, another little good good little pop number. Certainly you can see it's catching, you know, the attention of like the radio and top 40, and people kind of latching onto this one. Certainly has like those qualities, but again, it also feels a bit safe and generic. It's like, it's all kind of variations of songs that we've all heard before, and even though I think he does a good job at delivering it, the quality is certainly there. It's top notch considering, you know, all the tools at his disposal and his just overall ability as a musician. It just comes off as still feeling a bit generic. Let's go to the next track, Socialite. Yo, hold up. Yo, did my man just say calling her Shrek? She got a donkey? Come on, man. Come on. You know I'm gonna hit.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I do not know what that bar is about, but come on, bro. That was dope. At first I wasn't really sure how I was feeling about it, and then the drums kicked in and it turned a little, got a little more edge to it, I guess, so to say, and I was definitely vibing with it by the end. Aside from some very questionable bars in there, it was a dope song. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to Overdrive. Oh, don't really have a ton to say about the song other than like it was a cool little ballad, I guess. I don't know. I guess what I'm feeling for this album so far is it all feels pretty safe and generic and kind of like expected when it comes to like this type of like poppy rock synthy kind of genre or sound or whatever he's kind of trying to go on for. It's certainly got that mainstream appeal, and it feels like a lot of everything that's already been put out there. I'm not gonna lie. Let's go to speedometer. All right, I think I've heard enough. It's not for me. If anything, it certainly sounds kind of a bit corny, pulled straight from like the 80s electro era for sure, which seems to be kind of a recurring theme on this album. I'm not really sure why he's in love with that sound so much, but it's got its qualities to it, I guess. But this one's not for me. Speedometer is kind of too corny. Let's go to the next track. Hold My Breath. So another ballad. He's had quite a bit of those already on this album. I'll say it's probably number 3 or 4. This one's certainly more folky. And while it's a good song, it's a dope song. Like, I think its vocals are strong. The songwriting is definitely one of the best in the game, especially in like kind of the mainstream pop thing. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly gone far away from like these kind of trap pop days for sure. Let's go to the next one. Enough is enough. Song was tough. I gotta say that's probably his best produced song so far on this album, from front to back for sure. It's certainly got that kind of like big anthemic feel to it that you could definitely see playing really big in arena or at a festival. Like, it's certainly got that sing-along quality. I think this is his strongest kind of record so far on this entire album. And yeah, it was cool. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to Texas T. That was fire. That was super fire, actually. Like, those 808s and the drums he had on there were super massive, knocking pretty hard. The most aggressive probably track that he's had on this album, and I was like vibing pretty heavily with that. And also probably the shortest one, which I could have done with like another minute or so of that. But yeah, I think this is him kind of tapping a little bit back into that kind of trap pop sound that he's so kind of famous and popularized. But this one right here was tough. Fuck with that. Let's go to a few more tracks on this one. Let's go to Buyer Beware. Another dope one. He's definitely picked things up on the latter half of this album. The first half was dragging on a bit. I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it, but I think his strongest records have definitely come over the last 4 or 5. This one is certainly kind of like that poppy country folk song that you would hear out when you're out and about, easily at a club somewhere around like, Southwest for sure. But it was a dope number. Like, I could definitely see that one becoming one of his next singles if he plays things right. 3 more. Let's go to Landmine.
Like that.
Okay, that was super tough. I'm not gonna lie. like I said, over this last half, he certainly picked things up quite a bit. I think his best songs to date on this album all kind of happened from track 10 out, track 11 on. I don't really know why it took so long to get to this point, but it's pretty fire. Landmine was dripping with emotion, but still had kind of like that massive quality to it with the backing vocals that were very echoey and a lot of reverb going on. It was something that you could hear in an arena or a festival. And I can just imagine like an entire crowd of people singing along to that, layering it out word for word. He hits all the right notes that you would want from a song like this. And again, I think it's one of my favorite songs that he's put out on this project. It just continues to show that this one had like some real potential. It just took some time to get to this point, but Landmine is fire. Definitely fire. Let's go to Green Thumb. All right, I'm not feeling that one. Let's go to last track, Laugh It Off. That was fire. That was an appropriate end to the project as a whole. Appropriately like emotional, slow burn, but mixed in with a little more like high energy aggressiveness, which I think is when he's at his best. And out of all the ballads, I think this one stood out the most, especially considering like he didn't take away all the rough edges and kind of aggressiveness in his sound and production. And instead, he blended it with that more kind of slowed down, emotional aspect of the song, and I think it worked the best here. And I think that was a dope little outro to the album. But as a whole, I think the album was very mixed. I had some very mixed opinions and responses about this album as a whole. Like I said, I didn't really know which direction he was going to go, if he was going to continue down this more alternative, folky rock route that he seemed to have been going over the last few albums, or he was going to kind of veer back into more of that kind of rap, trap, pop blend that he kind of is known for and became popular off of it and like kind of like popularized overall. But he fully kind of went into that more alternative rock direction, and I think it worked to some varying degrees. Overall, I don't think the ballads were quite as strong as some of his past stuff, and I think the first half of the album drug on entirely too much. I think there were a lot of stuff that early on that he could have cut out from the project that would have made it a much better listen throughout and just a much more cohesive, strong effort from front to back. But like I said, halfway through, he fully picked up things and like really seemed to hit his stride. And I think the best moments is when he did kind of tap into that kind of trap sensibilities that he has with more aggressive production, harder drums, more 808s and stuff like that. That just seems to be when he's at his best. When he's kind of more this traditional folky alternative rock sound, it just seems a bit generic and played out and could have came from anybody. And I think a lot of this album was missing some of those weirder off the wall left field elements that he seems to bring to his music and this blend of sounds that only he seems to be able to achieve at a high level. But overall, like technically speaking, it was a strong album. He has shown himself to be a true musician and professional when it comes to sound. So the quality was high, but the effect and impact on a lot of it definitely felt a bit watered down and generic. But there were definitely some bright spots. What do you guys think about this album? Which one's your favorite tracks? Let us know in the comments down below where you're watching it. Listening to this.